What's up, my friends? Welcome to a Chaos News video. We're going to be talking about some news happening in the United States Army, and in this video we're talking about OSUT being extended for 2 more MOSs. A while back I've already talked about how for 11 Bravos and 11 Charlies, really for the 11 X-ray I guess individuals, they were extending OSUT to 22 weeks to make it longer so that people can get more training before they go off to their first units, because often units were having it where, you know, these soldiers are coming from OSUT and have the bare minimum training, and then they have to do additional training to try to get them on to, you know, the level they want them to have them at. You know, it's things like having more experience with certain vehicles or experience with weapons and experience with combat lifesavers, and now they're going to be doing that with 2 other MOSs as well. This is going to be done with the Scouts and the Armored Crewmen. So I would assume you're 19 kilos, even though the article doesn't specifically mention 19 kilos, but that's usually what your armor individuals are, as well as your 19 Deltas, your Scouts. Those OSUTs used to be 16 and 17 weeks long for those MOSs. Now they're going to be moving up to 22 weeks. So it's not quite as big of a difference as like the individuals that were doing OSUT for 11 Bravos, as this one is only adding, I think, 4 or 5 more weeks onto what their original OSUT was. It's not as big of a jump in the amount of weeks of training they're doing as it was for like the 11 Bravos and 11 Charlies as it is now for these 19 kilos and these 19 Deltas. So they're looking to essentially do kind of the same thing, try to make these individuals better trained when they go to their first units, add in more training. Specifically, they're kind of hitting on more vehicle time, especially you have your Scouts with the Bradleys, you have your crew members that are working with the Abrams tanks and other variations of different vehicles, especially like the Strikers as well, for like your 19 Deltas as well. And they're trying to give them more kind of vehicle time. They're also going to be adding in some of those other things. They mentioned specifically that they'll get more time with their M4s to be able to do more weapons, you know, type of training. So they're more familiar with how to operate the M4, but most of the article is kind of talking about how heavily they're going to kind of be on vehicle training, because soldiers in OSUT get some of the minimum of the training to kind of get the familiarization with it. In this kind of training, they're going to get more drive time, but also more vehicle identification training and a little bit more gun time, especially like with those individuals that have weapon systems like on the Bradley and everything. So they'll have a little bit more kind of experience before they head off to their very first unit. This is really just to make them better soldiers when they show up to their unit, so the unit doesn't have to, you know, focus so much on these brand new soldiers and giving them more training so that they're a little bit more on par with the rest of the unit. Now the key thing here is this is still in the pilot program, which means that they're testing it. It's not actually an official thing just yet. So soldiers that are going through OSUT for the 19 kilos and 19 Deltas in November may be going through this 22-week OSUT. After that, it's kind of up in the air. They're really going to kind of evaluate how this really benefits these individuals by doing this 22 weeks here in November. And then after that class has graduated, then they're going to kind of evaluate if they want to make that the new standard for these OSUTs. They also mentioned they're going to be increasing the class size. So typically they mentioned that the class size is around 165, and they're going to kind of boost that up to 185. So they're adding a little bit more people to these OSUT classes. So they are going to be increasing the numbers of individuals that kind of go through this training to give it a good evaluation, I guess. So just to point out a couple of like quotes, I guess, from the article as far as what additionally they're kind of adding to it. I like kind of this section here where it's talking about the 19 Delta Scouts will be doing more reconnaissance and security, both on the platform and dismounted in their roles with the crew. So you get a lot more kind of scout time, I guess, more scout training. And then talking about like the armor unit, says currently armor soldiers are primarily trained on the platform they're most likely to see once they get to the unit assignment. For instance, Strikers with Striker BCT or a Bradley for an armored BCT. But now they're going to spend more time with the Striker, Bradley, and the Humvee so that they're ready to go wherever they need them. It also mentions that part of like the tracked type of training that they're going to want to kind of focus a little bit more on is like the recovery operations. So they're going to kind of work with soldiers to kind of educate them on like recovery operations for instances when their tracked vehicle goes down. It sounds like before that wasn't, you know, that was kind of more of a familiarization, but they want to incorporate a little bit more heavier training into that recovery operations into this 22-week program. So whether or not this becomes the new standard like how it is for the 11 X-rays of 22 weeks, I guess time will tell. They're going to do this pilot program, so individuals probably going to OSUT in November. If you're one of those people going pretty soon, maybe you're one of these individuals that will be doing this 22-week one. You probably already know if you are, but after that, if you're going like maybe in December or January, they're probably still going to do the normal one until they really kind of get a good evaluation from this 22-week pilot program to determine if that's going to be the new standard. So time will tell if this becomes the new standard as far as OSUT for tankers and for scouts to be 22 weeks now, or if they're just gonna go back to the 16 and 17 week OSUT. I guess we'll find out eventually. So for my viewers out there that are currently in the Army, in these MOSs, or even veterans out there that are watching this, do you think this extra weeks of training focusing on the vehicles and recovery operations would have benefited you before going off to your very first duty station? So what are your thoughts on that? Leave some comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm ThatChrisChaos, and I will see you next time. See ya.